New release Eye in the Sky is a film about the morality and the costs of war, and it stars Helen Mirren as a colonel and Alan Rickman in his last screen appearance. So, is it worth trekking out to the multiplex for? I'm Cinema Siren, and this is my review and my exclusive interview with director Gavin Hood. Cinema Siren!
So the plan is to put a hellfire through the roof of that house. I need legal clearance right now.
A missile from the Reaper?
Yes.
So this is no longer a capture situation?
No. We have 2 suicide vests with explosives inside that house. So can you clear me to a higher CDE? Harold, this is a very time-sensitive target. Do I have authority to strike?
The rules of engagement you're operating under only allow for a low collateral damage estimate.
Yes, and my weapons only invoke a low CDE. It's the explosives inside that house that bring it to a potentially high CDE.
And since you know the explosives are there, it is incumbent upon you to take them into account. I can see a potential legal objection.
Jesus, we've got 2 suicide bombers and 3 very high-value individuals inside that house.
And you want them off your list, I understand that, but the rules of engagement you're operating under envisaged a capture, not a kill scenario. Ma'am, I think it would be wise to refer up.
Are you telling me that or just debating with me?
To refer up?
Mm-hmm.
I am telling you.
Eye in the Sky stars an ensemble cast headed up by Helen Mirren as Colonel Katherine Powell, who is in command of a top-secret drone operation to arrest terrorists she finds in Kenya, aided by teams in both the U.S. and Nairobi. They discover the targets there are about to dispatch suicide bombers, and the mission escalates from capture to kill. In the U.S., drone pilot Steve Watts, Aaron Paul, discovers a 9-year-old girl entering the kill zone to sell bread, which starts a political debate involving the U.S. and British governments. Alan Rickman, as Lieutenant General Frank Benson, has to mediate between members of the government and Powell's military team, while they all weigh one child's life against the near certainty of a vastly larger body count should the suicide bombers survive long enough to discharge their weapons. Aaron Paul as the American drone pilot Steve Watts, thrown into a moral quandary about killing the girl as collateral damage, finally gets a role where he shows his depth and subtlety as an actor. Helen Mirren, playing a commanding role originally meant for a man, is entirely believable and elicits respect from the audience. Hood's choice of using Mirren smartly opens up the conversation to a larger audience, effectively at once removing gender from the equation and creating interest in the film from her substantial female fan base.
In Guy's original script, the role that Helen plays was, it's true, written for a man. And one of the first things I asked Guy very respectfully, is because his script is so good, is, Guy, would you consider, I didn't have the job yet, would you consider it'd be okay if we changed it from a man to a woman? And he thought for a moment, and I said, look, the reason I want to do that is, first of all, because I'd like to send this to Helen Mirren, because I can think of no other actor who will be as steely, as determined, and also someone with whom we'll really connect. And then when she twists on us, it's really unsettling. But also because I think that the questions that the film raises should be discussed by men and women. And I didn't want to make a film that was about a whole lot of men in a war movie. I just thought that might alienate women, frankly. And I think that having Helen in the film gives us the best of both worlds.
Alan Rickman uses black humor as only he can and leverages his talent at nuance in nearly every scene, making Eye in the Sky a worthy last screen appearance. One of his final lines rivals his famed Galaxy Quest and Harry Potter quotes, though a supporting role, fans of his will want to see him show his genius on screen once more.
Alan Rickman plays the role of a general who's liaising between Helen Mirren's character, the military intelligence officer, and a group of politicians sitting in a place called Cobra, which is a real place, stands for Cabinet Office Briefing Room A in Whitehall. And he is also finding it immensely frustrating that he can't get an answer from the politicians so that he can tell his commander what to do. And in the hands of a lesser actor, that would simply be a frustrated general wanting people to hurry up. In the hands of Alan Rickman, it's delightful and funny, because with the slightest twist on a line, his sarcasm, his slight acerbic wit, and the audience really likes him even when they think perhaps he's not doing the right thing, and then they laugh. So I think having these tremendous actors in this film, where with lesser actors it would simply have been a story with stock characters. I think these actors really fully flesh out the roles and help the audience identify with the film.
From an underground bunker-like control center to the kill zone in the slums of Nairobi, it's impressive that Eye in the Sky production artists can bring their desperate locations, all filmed in and around Cape Town, South Africa, together into visual cohesion.
So there was a lot of conversation between myself, the wonderful Harris Zambarloukos, Johnny Breert, the production designer, about how can we introduce tension and movement into what might otherwise be a very, very static environment. And we could talk about that in terms of the location that Alan Rickman is in, and Aaron Paul and everybody. So a great deal of thought went into the production design and then how to photograph and move the camera where appropriate, but without moving it just to be cool. So hopefully you don't notice the camera moves in the way that you might if we'd sort of taken a very handheld approach. There's more handheld than you might think in the film, but we had a fantastic camera operator who moves like an athlete, so we can get intimate with the characters, but without wobbly cam.
As entertaining and suspenseful as it may be, Eye in the Sky asks more questions than it answers, and that's a good thing. We're at a time where much of how warfare is waged is rapidly changing. Those ordering a strike or pulling the trigger are experiencing a very different kind of pressure, intense stress, and sometimes a more profound sense of guilt. With Eye in the Sky, audiences are left wondering what choices they would make in the same position. These are questions we should all be asking ourselves. I give Eye in the Sky an A-. A, because it's such a pleasure to have a complex, well-acted, visually sophisticated film that both entertains and brings up questions. A-, because I had a tiny issue wishing the ending were a little bit more ambiguous. But it is a must-see for all Mirren and Rickman fans, as well as those who appreciate a film with a little more going on than just a bunch of explosions. For Cinema Siren, I'm Leslie Como.